Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to yet another Cutter Top 10 NBA video. And today we end the NBA block in a sense with the top 10 NBA numero unos in history. That's not the number one scoring leaders and all that, but the number one draft picks. We've seen a lot of number one draft picks become bust. Kwame Brown, Andre Mariani, Greg Oden, although he was injured and not just mistalented and all that, and Anthony Bennett, which he sucked and he gave Canadians a bad name. Nevertheless, we're going to be talking about 10 legendary NBAers who actually did well with the number one draft pick. All that. It's hard to rank them because, they're legends and all that. There are some massive honorable mentions. Yao Ming in 2002, coming out of China to the Houston Rockets, and when he was healthy, he helped Houston out and gave the NBA a Chinese outreach. Dwight Howard, who was it 2004? That Orlando picked him up from high school, and he actually worked out quite well with the Lakers and Magic. And Elgin Baylor, who was picked first overall in 1958 by the Minneapolis Lakers. So anyhow, Baylor was a good player too. All right, here we go. Top 10. Number 10 is Anthony Davis, known as the Brow for his unibrow. He's still active in the league. He is in Washington, if I remember correctly. He's somewhere where it was like, where? What the heck? He's in Washington? Nevertheless, in 2012, the New Orleans Pelicans needed a guy, and Kentucky had a great big man by the name of Anthony Davis. So after doing well with Kentucky, he went to the Pelicans and was basically the franchise. After all, the Pelicans did have Chris Paul for a while and then left him. But anyway, Anthony Davis was the key ingredient for the Pelicans, but then he ended up being a Laker and a few other teams too. Oh yeah, Dallas as well, because he was the guy traded to Dallas for Luka Doncic. So anyway, Anthony Davis is a pretty good player, multi-time All-Star champion and an NBA champion. Number 9 is the Big O, Oscar Robertson, 1960 from the University of Cincy. The Big O was a great player for the Cincinnati Bearcats in the 50s in college. Unfortunately, though, a couple years after he went to the NBA in 1960, the Bearcats did win back-to-back NCAA titles and missed out in overtime of the third one to Loyola. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The Miko was great. And in 1962, he actually averaged a triple-double for a season. In the NBA, a triple-double is when you get 10 or more of 3 of 5 categories. You got my triple double, like I always say, is points, assists, and rebounds. You can also have steals and blocks if that reaches 10. You can have like a 10 steal, 10 block, and 10 rebound game and still call it a triple double per se. Anyhow, yeah, the Big O did that. Was an MVP. He revolutionized the guard position, and he was pretty good for the Royals slash Kings franchise, if you will. Of course, he wouldn't be the last guy to go triple double per season. That's Russell Westbrook, but no, Westbrook is not a number one pick, so he's disqualified. Number 8 is AI 1996, one of the greatest draft classes of all time. 2003 also had a good draft class, but 96 had some great ones. AI drafted first overall from the University of Georgetown by the Philadelphia 76ers. Toronto got the second pick and got Marcus Camby from the University of Massachusetts, who went to the Final Four somehow. And yeah, Camby was a good player and all that. You had Steve Nash, you had uh, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Kobe, of course. I would say Keith Van Horn, but I'm probably wrong. But nevertheless, the 96 draft class is one of the best ever. Iverson became the league MVP, 11-time All-Star, and helped the Sixers get good and get to the 2001 NBA Finals against the Lakers. Although, they did lose the Lakers in 5. At least they gave the Lakers a playoff loss. And AI's famous move in overtime in Game 1, scoring and then stepping over Tyronn Lue. I was playing as a Laker. But anyway, AI knew what to do and all that. And says that we're talking about practice, not the game, but freaking practice. AI kind of was a malcontent. He was financially broke for a while. He actually owed money for jewelry and all that at one time or another. He even went to China to play basketball. But yeah, AI's all right in a sense. Number 7 is Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, 1984, from the University of Houston. Well, Houston started off decent, and then they decided that after injuries, they just couldn't win. So they decided to throw the season away, if you will, in 1984. And Houston ended up being one of two teams that could have the number one draft pick. Portland could also, too. Portland, well, the rules in the NBA before 1985 were if you were the worst team in the East and the worst team in the West, you go for a coin flip. And the winner of the coin flip got the number one draft pick. The loser got number 2. And Houston and Portland flipped. Well, Portland ended up having Indiana's first round pick of that year, and the Pacers were the worst team in the East. So Houston won the coin flip. They drafted Hakeem Olajuwon from the University of Houston. Didn't have to go far because he was a star for Phi Slama Jamba and missed out again on an NCAA title. 83 and 84, he failed in the finals. 83 to NC State, of course, the Cinderellas they are, and 84 to Georgetown, who finally got Patrick Ewing a title. So anyhow, you knew what to do. But yeah, Olajuwon was legendary. Helped the Rockets win 2 titles in the mid '90s when MJ was gone. Was named MVP. He was good and brought Nigeria to the forefront alongside Christian Okoye for the Chiefs. But the fact of the matter is that yeah, Hakeem was pretty good and all that. Portland would rue the day they had that because the number 2 pick was Sam Bowie. But a lot of people said you can't blame Portland because well, they could have had MJ, but MJ's numbers were basically lessened by Dean Smith's rotation system. You also had Portland having Clyde Drexler and Jim Paxson already, so what were you going to do? And, you know, you needed a center to be a good player, to be a good team, because almost every team in the NBA had one who were talent holders. So you can't play Portland. Number 6 is David the Admiral Robinson, 1987 by the Spurs. So San Antonio kind of also tanked too in '87, and ended up they ended up getting the number 1 draft pick, even though the Clippers were worse than them. So the Spurs got lucky in a sense. Anyhow, the Admiral looked good. Unfortunately, though, during the draft lottery, it was revealed, of course, that David Robinson would have to take a 2-year stint because Navy, if you're an athlete in the Navy, you had to take a 2-year job elsewhere, like a 2-year stint elsewhere, service stint before 1994. And the San Antonio GM heard about this and said, we waited 14 years because they were born in 1973. We waited 14 years. What's 2 more? So they were willing to be patient for Robinson when he was eligible to play in the NBA, in a sense, from the Navy. And it worked. 2-time champ, league MVP, a defensive powerhouse, and a powerful mentor to number 3 on this list. It was worth the gamble. Number 5 is Shaq in 1992 from LSU. Shaq was big and all that. I read his biography after his first season with Orlando, and basically he was this guy in a military family, and one of the main generals thought that he was in the service for many years, but this 7-foot guy was only 13 years old. So Shaq was in a military family and full of love. And then, of course, he went to LSU, played a few years with the Tigers, didn't do well in the NCAA, but who cared? He had once had 10 blocks in one game. But yeah, Shaq looked good. And then Orlando, just an infant as a franchise, their 3rd year, if memory serves me right, won the '92 draft lottery and ended up getting Shaq, and it was big and all that. That Orlando had the center, and Orlando by 1 game missed the NBA playoffs. It actually was huge because Shaq was actually suspended for 1 game during a fight in March. So anyway, that was huge. What's even more crazy is that Orlando, even though they were 1 game out of the playoffs, somehow 1 ball out of 65 got the ball in the hopper and won the 1993 draft lottery. And Bob Costa said, basically, this is go figure. Orlando did draft Chris Webber from Michigan, but they traded him to Golden State for Penny Hardaway, which actually worked out. C-Webb did fine for Golden State, then demanded a trade because he didn't like the new coach, PJ Carlesimo. So he went to Washington and then went to Sacramento. Nevertheless, Shaq won 4 championships and an MVP award. He was a free agent. The Lakers just had to have him and were celebrating putting him and Kobe together, although the friendship wouldn't last too long, even though they won 3 titles. And Shaq did help Miami win the 2006 NBA championship, so good on him. He did end his career with Phoenix and Boston and Cleveland, so okay, whatever. Anyway, number 4 is Magic Johnson, 1979 from MSU, Michigan State. Magic is a legend. Now, contrary to popular belief, Larry Bird was not drafted first overall. He was drafted in 1978, fifth overall, even though he played in 1979 college, because Larry Bird graduated a year early from his studies and was allowed to be drafted, despite him playing one more year at Indiana State with the Sycamores. Nevertheless, Magic was good for Michigan State. He was a bankable star, and the Spartans went to the NCAA championship game against Indiana State. And for a long time, I think more than 3 decades, it was the highest rate watched NCAA basketball final ever. And this is 1979, we're talking. Now, of course, personally, people forget about Mike Berkovich because Mike Berkovich came from Canada, came from Windsor. And, you had a Canadian on an NCAA championship team way before Jamal Magloire. But anyway, Magic was this guy. He had a beaming smile, 6'9" playing guard. 6'9", he'd be like a power forward. But no, he played the guard quite well. And in his first season with the Lakers, he actually led them to the NBA Finals. Once Kareem Abdul-Jabbar got injured and couldn't play Game 6 in Philly, Magic started at center and he put on a triple-double performance. Iconic, helping the Lakers win that championship and 4 more and getting 3 MVP honors. It would be great. Unfortunately, though, the HIV announcement would ruin his career. In a sense, he did get back for the 92 All-Star game because everyone voted him in. And then in 1996, he came back for one season. Well, 95, 96, before Kobe came in. And yeah, he's the Dodgers owner. I think he's part owner of the Lakers, is he not? Well, anyway, yeah, Magic Johnson is successful. Number 3 is Tim Duncan, 1997, from Wake Forest. So San Antonio had 2 great number 1 draft picks, David Robinson and Tim Duncan. Duncan was known as the big fundamental. He was good for Wake Forest. He was born in the Virgin Islands, and he was going to be a swimmer. But after a hurricane wrecked the facility in the Virgin Islands, he became a basketball player. Didn't bet you didn't know that. Nevertheless, Duncan was there. San Antonio did openly tank for Tim Duncan. That's what they said. But anyway, San Antonio got Duncan and paired him up with David Robinson. Duncan was a power forward, Robinson was a center. And for years, that's what happened. And then once 2 out of 3 and David Robinson won the title and retired, Duncan became the center / power forward of the Spurs and helped them win 4 more championships. And he won 2 MVPs himself. So yeah, he knew what he was doing. And like David Robinson, he was a one-team guy. I mean, Iverson wasn't, the Big O wasn't, I don't think. No, he played for Boston. Anthony Davis hasn't been. Hakeem wasn't. He played for the Raptors. Shaq played for many teams. Magic was a Laker, yeah, for one team, and Tim Duncan, too. All right, number 2 is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a.k.a. Lou Alcindor, 1969 from UCLA. So anyway, Lou Alcindor was this dominant center and all that for 3 years at UCLA. A lot of people said, why 3? Well, because back before 1968, freshmen could not play on the varsity squads and all that for football and basketball primarily. But the fact is that Kareem, once he got to UCLA, it was just amazing and all that. In fact, he was so dominant in college, they banned dunking for like 9 years. You could dunk, but you would get a technical foul and you'd be in deep trouble. But anyway, Kareem was good. And then Alcindor was drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks. Bet you didn't know he was drafted by Milwaukee and not the Lakers. People remember Abdul-Jabbar in the 80s for the Lakers, but early. So in 1969, he was good. He helped them win the 1971 Bucks with the title. And then he decided to leave because he wanted to go to New York or LA because Milwaukee was boring. So they managed to get a trade with the LA Lakers, sending 3 players like Elmore Smith, someone else, and Junior Bridgman to Milwaukee. It actually worked out. Junior Bridgman was a Milwaukee icon. He recently died, but he was an entrepreneur in Louisville. But anyway, Abdul-Jabbar, went to the Lakers, became the center, and became a key part of NBA lure. So yeah, he looked good. He won 6 championships, of course, the one with Milwaukee, 5 with the Lakers, and 6 MVP awards. He was dominant. He was the NBA's all-time leading scorer for a while until number 1 popped up. And who else would it be? LeBron James, 2003. Yes, 2003 had a good draft class as well. You know, you had LeBron number 1, you had Darko Milicic number 2, which was like, holy fuck, he couldn't fit in the Detroit system. But the joke was on many people because Milicic won the NBA title in his rookie year. LeBron didn't. LeBron had to wait till 2012 to win an NBA title. You also had Carmelo Anthony go 3rd overall. You had Chris Bosh going 4th and Dwayne Wade going 5th. But yeah, that was a great draft. LeBron came out of high school. ESPN broadcast his high school games, basically put him on the map. Cleveland luckily got the number 1 draft pick, you know, from Ohio. You knew it. So LeBron helped out. And LeBron was good. He got Cleveland to the 2007 NBA Finals, but got swept by the Spurs, basically thinking it was just LeBron and 11 nobodies. LeBron in 2010 decided to do this ESPN special called The Decision and say he was going to take us down to the South Beach, which is fine. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, it didn't have to be a 1 hour special. It could have been 30 minutes even. That would be fine. But it was an hour. Anyway, LeBron went to South Beach. So did Bosh to join Wade and Miami. He got to the 2011 finals, lost to the Mavericks, who got revenge for 2006. And then 2012, 2013, Miami won the titles. And then 2014, they lost to the Spurs. And then that led LeBron to actually head back to Cleveland. Cleveland fans who had burned his jersey basically regretted it. They embraced him again. And he brought them the 2016 NBA championship, the first Cleveland pro sports title since 1964 with the Browns. Pre-Super Bowl, of course. But yeah, LeBron was there for Cleveland, and then he decided to chase the dream in 2018, leaving for Los Angeles, and Cleveland fans burned his stuff all over again. It actually helped the Raptors out because the Raptors were always taken down by LeBron. So with LeBron playing for the West, they actually did much better, and the Raptors went on to win the NBA Finals against Golden State. Nevertheless, LeBron's won multiple championships, MVPs, impacting the game, and he's still around. Like, fuck. Like, this is 23 years in the making. You know, that is his jersey number, so maybe he'll retire in 2026. For my sake, I hope he does. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.